My guest tonight is a ball player who hustled his way into the record books and became the most prolific hitter baseball has ever seen. From the day his uncle talked the Cincinnati Reds into giving him a shot, Peter Edward Rose defied expectations, eventually setting the all-time record for most at-bats, runs scored, and games played. He's a 17-time All-Star, 3-time World Series champion, and the all-time hit leader in Major League Baseball history with 4,256 hits. But before he was named League MVP, did you know he learned to switch hit at 9 years old? Was the water boy for his father's football team? Was given the nickname Charlie Hustle by two Yankee greats. Tonight we'll learn what makes this undeniable icon who he is, a man who once said, "I'm just like everybody else. I have 2 arms, 2 legs, and 4,000 hits." Please welcome the Hit King, Pete Rose.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Have a seat. Have a seat. Get comfy. My story with you is kind of funny. When I was 7, my mom and dad took me to Cincinnati. My dad was a longtime broadcaster for the St. Louis Cardinals. And my mom was walking me into Riverfront Stadium, and I begged my mom to buy this Cardinals plastic batting helmet. 2 innings later, you, Pete Rose, batting left-handed, slapped a ball coming right at my forehead. I duck my head down. It hits that plastic batting helmet and lands in the guy's lap behind me. 2 things happened. 1, I didn't get the ball. 2, my dad was broadcasting the game and saw you hit me with a foul ball in the seats above the third base dugout. And then my dad got a poster signed by Pete Rose. It said, "To Joe, sorry I hit you, Pete Rose." How about that? You're born in 1941 in Anderson Ferry. Tell me about what it was like growing up in this little township outside Cincinnati.
Well, all we had to do was play sports, and I was very fortunate because my father was an athlete. Like Joe said, I was the water boy on his football team. I was the ball boy on his baseball team. I was the ball boy on his basketball team.
I mean, you were 2. He was rolling the ball
Right.
to you. Before, when you could stand, you had a bat in your hands. You learned how to switch bat when you were 9 years old.
Right.
I mean, you were being molded, even if you were small and scrawny, to be a big league ball player, right?
The big league something. Sports was my life. I mean, sports was my. And I remember I grew up in the same neighborhood with Don Zimmer, who died a couple years ago. Went to the same high school. We were taught the same way how to play the game of baseball. And his dad and my dad were Little League teammates. And his dad was a big gambler. And every Saturday, they used to take Don and I, our dads would take Don and I to the racetrack. That's where all that shit started.
It was planted early.
Yeah.
Tell me, your dad, Harry, but they called him Pete.
I don't know why, but all I know is my dad was really, really, really aggressive.
Yeah.
And he was punctual. He worked at a bank downtown, Fifth Third Union Trust Company for 37 years. Never missed a day of work, very punctual. Took the bus to work, took the bus home from work. And I can tell you the kind of dad I got. This is the way I was raised. I had 2 older sisters. One of them passed away, so I still have 1 older sister. And I guess my mom had the money in the family. She gave my dad the money to buy my sister Carol a pair of shoes. And I'm like 5 years old. And he gets off the bus at 5:15. He comes up. He walks in. He's supposed to have my sister Carol a pair of shoes. He throws me a pair of boxing gloves. My mom said, "What the hell is this for?" He said, "She don't need shoes. It's summertime. This boy's got to learn how to defend himself." That's the kind of dad I had. He wanted to worry about me defending myself by buying me boxing gloves. She got the shoes the next day, but the day before, I got the boxing gloves. When you got a father like that, you're going to be an aggressive guy. And that's just the way we were back in the 40s and the 50s. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have iPads. We didn't have computers. And we had sports fields. We had places to go to play sports, and that's what we did.
What specifically did he teach you?
Punctuality, being on time. Here's another thing. When I grew up, I was never on a vacation in my life because my father didn't believe it was fair to take me away from the baseball team for a week or 2 weeks during the summer. And he told the coach, he says, I want my boy to be a switch batter. And he'll never miss a practice. He'll never miss a game. But if there's a right-hander pitching, I want him to bat left-handed. And if there's a left-hander pitching, I want him to bat right-handed. And that's my part of the deal. He'll never miss a game. And I never missed a game, and I was never on a vacation. And my dad didn't want me to watch TV, didn't want me to go to movie theaters because he thought it was bad for my eyes. You know, you got to have good eyes to be a hitter. You know, Stevie Wonder would be a bad hitter. And he didn't want me to hurt my eyes.
Your dad was a terrific local athletic star and somebody who played the game like we eventually saw you,
Right.
Pete Rose, play the game.
Well, he was about the best football player to come out of Cincinnati. And he just approached the game the right way. And the only thing bad about him, he didn't have really good eyes. You know, he wore glasses because he worked in the tabulation department. That's why he didn't excel in baseball like he did football and basketball, because his eyes weren't 20/20 like mine was. I had great eyes. I still do. I'm looking right at you, buddy. You know, I've met 6 presidents, but my father is the only person I've ever idolized. I respect a lot of people, but my father is the only person I ever looked up to and really idolized. And I wish everybody in this audience could have the same relationship with their father that I had with my father. I know I do with my sons, and I know you do with your dad. So if you're blessed to have that opportunity to have a close relationship with your father, because you only get one father, you only get one mother. They don't pass them out. And if you get one like I had, you're just ahead of the game to start with. I used to hear this: if you're half the man your dad was, you'll be a hell of a man. I never got tired of hearing that.
During this time, your dad's teaching you all this. Where's your mom?
To be honest with you, Joe, I got my baseball ability side of the family from my mother's side, because her brother, who was my uncle, was a scout for the Reds, and her other brother was a really good ball player in Cincinnati. And her other brother was a good ball player in Cincinnati. So the baseball side of my family come from my mom's side, but the football side come from my dad.
I'm fascinated by the idea of winning. You go 4 for 5, you'd see your dad after, why didn't you go 5 for 5? Or if you went 4 for 5 and your team lost,
Yeah.
you guys didn't eat. Eating's for winners.
I tell people all the time, I says, you got to earn that food. If my team as a little leaguer went into a team slump, it was almost like going to Jenny Craig. 'Cause we didn't get no food. You got to earn that food, son. You want to win the game? And he didn't care if I got 3 hits or 4 hits or 5 hits. If we lost the game, we're going home. You played to win championships. That's why you play. Don't tell me when you go watch a grandson or a nephew or a son play and they win the game and do something positive, you don't feel better on the way home. Because you do. And if you don't, you shouldn't be going to the game. That's the way I look at it. And that's what you got to teach these kids today. The difference in winning and losing. The difference in getting a C as opposed to an A. The A is better than a C. Winning the game is better than losing the game. It's not rocket science. It's really not. Think about it. And we just don't emphasize that enough because that's not the proper thing to do. The hell with the proper thing to do. Win the game.
Well, we've heard about the boxing gloves, seen the football with your dad. Now, your dad was playing baseball too, but what was
I had
it
a
about
boxing
baseball?
career too, Joe.
Yeah?
Yeah, I had 2 bouts. I lost both bouts, but I didn't get knocked out. And after the second bout, I fought a guy, this is true, I was 14 years old, I was fighting under 112 pounds. I fought a guy that had 4 kids at ringside. And he beat my ass. But he didn't knock me out. And I said, well, after 2 fights, I said, Dad, I want get my glove and my bat back out of the rack. I don't want to be no boxer. Because my dad was special weight champion of Ohio at 106 pounds.
Wait, whoa. You're 14.
Yeah.
And you're fighting a guy who has 4 kids in the front row.
His name was Candy Jameson. You can check it. Candy Jameson. And the other guy I fought was a guy named Virgil Cole.
How's this legal?
It wasn't professional. There was 500 people there, and my dad and his friend was the only white guys there. I didn't have a chance. I didn't have a chance. But it was fun. I mean, just the action was fun. But, you know, I'd rather play baseball. I don't want to be a fighter.
So at this time, are you thinking?
I want to be a baseball. I want to be Ted Kozuski. Ted Kozuski is the guy that had the big arms that we had to cut the sleeves out. The Reds uniforms had to cut the sleeves out because his arms were so big. And he used to look at me and he says, you know what them are right there? His arms was like this. I said, what's those, big guy? He said, those are Polish joke stoppers. You got to listen to me talk, because everything I say is going to be funny, okay?
And politically incorrect and mildly racist, and yeah, just listen carefully. 1960, you're not getting any traction. There's no draft at that time.
No draft. Well, when I graduated from high school, Joe, I weighed 158 pounds. That's why my uncle, see, everybody in my family matured physically late, the males. And my uncle convinced the Reds that I'd do the same. When I graduated from high school, I weighed 158 pounds. And I was 19 years old.
So your Uncle Buddy, who is your mom's brother, says to the Reds, he's a scout for the Reds, hey, give this kid a shot.
Yeah.
He's a rose. They mature and grow later in life. I've seen it myself with this family. Give him a chance. And the Reds, to be fair, jumped on the opportunity because they had missed this same thing with Don Zimmer 10 years prior.
Same high school.
Same high school. Say, let's not let the local kid, if he's going to grow, let's get him.
Yeah, they gave me a $7,000 bonus, and they gave me $5,000 more if I make the Reds for 30 days. So in other words, they always had me working for something. Always keep your mind going straight, always working for something.
You're signed as a catcher. You never play catcher. You show up in Geneva, and let's be honest, you sucked at second base at first.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, all right, good.
I mean, I could get the job done. I worked at it, but I had to work real hard at second base. And, you know, I didn't have power. I didn't have exceptional speed, but I was a great base runner.
Were you homesick at first?
No, because I used to get a letter twice a week from my dad, and he'd always end the letter by, love, Dad, keep hustling, and win. He might have, son, how you doing? Dad, keep hustling and win. What's he going to tell me? What's he going to tell me? I'm making $400 a month. $400 a month to play baseball. They're crazy. They're paying me $400 to play baseball. We had to work because, you know, when your first year, you're making $400 a month, and I only worked 2.5 months. Do the math. It's $1,000. I'm not going to live on $1,000, okay? I got a job at Railway Express, which was right behind Crosby Field. Never forget it. I worked from 12 o'clock at night till 8 in the morning, and I made $2.83 an hour. That was my job. And my job was either to unload or load a boxcar. And that's when like Joe said, I start developing, because all I was doing is lifting weights, you know, all night. You know, not overly lifting weights, but unloading a boxcar. That was my job. I had to have that boxcar unloaded by 8 o'clock in the morning. And it helped, because it just made me grow.
You get the invitation to spring training in
Right.
1963, and you're basically just a body in spring training. And they say, just go get your running in, whatever. Right. You're done. We're not going to use you. But you stayed on the bench. You end up getting in the game.
Well, here's what happened. You did your homework, by the way. I go to spring training in 1963 as a non-rostered player. And what that means is every team has a 40-man roster, okay? And then you have extra invitees that the teams invite to spring training. You love that as a player because for an extra 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, you get major league meal money, which is a lot better than minor league meal money, okay? And we took a bus from Tampa over to Fort Lauderdale to play the Yankees. And my day's done. If I want to just go do my running, I can go take a shower and wait for the bus. And Mike Reba, a coach, one of the coaches in spring training, said, where are you going, buddy? I said, my day's done. He said, stick around. You might get in the game. You never know. So lo and behold, it's the 9th inning. We need a pinch runner. And Hutch puts me in the pinch run. A guy gets a base hit 1 or 2 steps to the left of the left fielder. I go from first to third. I do a head first slide, and I'm safe. And this guy hits a pop-up to shallow short. Tony Kubek's going backpedaling. Ain't nobody going to throw me out backpedaling, okay? I tag up, and I do another head first slide into home. Safe, we win the game 2-1. Now, after the game, Mickey Mantle and Whitey Ford are in there talking, and Mickey said, "Did you see that Charlie Hustle beat us today?" Next day in the New York paper, Charlie Hustle beats Yanks. That's how that name come about.
And in 1963, you sign a contract after the spring training.
Yeah.
3 hours before the start of the
Absolutely.
season,
Absolutely.
3 hours before the first game.
Absolutely.
And you're the Cincinnati Reds. Think about that. This is a Cincinnati kid who's now starting at second base for the Cincinnati Reds.
Batting second.
Batting second. What, 3 years after you were signed? As a kid, a scrawny kid.
I wasn't nervous at all until about 20 minutes before game time. A guy came down and says, "Can you get a picture with your mom and dad for the Cincinnati Enquirer?" And I said, "Sure." And that kind of woke me up where I'm at. Because where I was at was where I wanted to be every opening day at the Cincinnati Reds baseball game. And I walked on 4 pitches. The guy's name was Earl Francis. And if he'd have threw it right down the middle, I couldn't have swung. I was too nervous.
What are you seeing coming back at you? What are your goals as you start this major league career?
I don't think the hardest thing is to make the big leagues. The hardest thing, I think, is staying there for a long period of time. A lot of guys make the big leagues. But to stay there for 24 years or stay there for 10 years with the competition that you have trying to take your job every year, I just want to be a Cincinnati Red. I just want to do well.
You are this young, brash, who the hell is this guy on a veteran good ball club, and you're not well liked. You ended up really bonding with the African-American players in the early 60s, and that's where you were hanging out in the clubhouse and after games.
I was called in the general manager's office in 63, and I was accused of hanging with the African-American players too much. I was, because they treated me like I was one of the guys. I remember one time in Oakland, we went to a place called the Showcase Lounge, and I went with Frank Robinson and Veda Pinson, who were both from Oakland. And we walk in this place, 500 people, all African-Americans, and me. And they treated me like I was royalty because I was with Frank and Veda. And they went out on a limb to treat me like, I guess they could see something that the other guys couldn't see, Joe. They knew I was dedicated to the game, and they knew I had some ability to hit the baseball, and they gave me a second chance, and they knew I was going to make them better in the long run. And they were, they were both great teammates, and I owe them a lot because even though the guys, I don't want to say resented me, I didn't realize it. I'm on cloud 9, man. I'm playing for my hometown. I was born 3 miles from Crosby Field. I don't give a damn what these guys think about me playing. I'm going to run the first harder on them base on balls. They resented that. I heard all that bullshit in the minor leagues too. Okay? Faster I get down there, buddy, the faster I'm going to get around and score a run and beat your ass. That's why I looked at it. That's the way you got to look at it.
So you win Rookie of the Year.
Yes.
1963.
Yes, I did.
Rookie of the Year.
I'm in Fort Knox, Kentucky, because I joined the Army after my rookie year, and I'm waxing the floor at the mess hall, and I get a call that I was named Rookie of the Year.
You get married that off season.
Yeah.
And you were 2 hours late to your own wedding reception because you were getting the Rookie of the Year award.
Yeah, that was important for me. I mean,
what a lover. What a romantic. I mean, come on.
I didn't plan it that way. I mean, would she have rather if I hadn't been Rookie of the Year? I mean, help pay the bills. She understood. She understood. Well, I guess I did divorce her. That's right.
Yeah.
Maybe she didn't understand.
It started that day. Pete, we were talking about 1963, and then that starts this run where you individually have tremendous success. I mean, most hits in the league a couple of times, batting titles more than one. You're an all-star multiple times, but the team is not winning. And I get the sense, knowing you, the way you grew up, how you were raised by your dad, the individual stuff is fine, but the not winning as a team is killing you.
Well, 2 ways of looking at that. We didn't win pennants. In those days, you didn't have playoffs. but we were always winning more games than we were losing. And I came in 63, Perez came in 65, Helms came in 66, Bench came in 68, Lee May came in 67, Davey Concepcion came in 69, and we had a manager named Dave Bristol, who was a great baseball man. He kind of put the Big Red Machine together, but Sparky Anderson came after the 69 season and developed it. Sparky developed the Big Red Machine.
And he names you captain.
I know he was a genius when he did that.
How did you lead? I mean, it wasn't that long ago that you were the guy over in the corner of the clubhouse, not really welcomed by the vets. And now, how did you lead as captain?
Well, those
of the
guys
Reds?
were all gone. And I told Sparky, I said, Sparky, I says, you know, I've been here the longest. Okay, and I just want you to know, if you ever want to have a clubhouse, this is true, I asked, if you ever have a clubhouse meeting and you want to get on me, feel free to get on me about something I did that wasn't kosher for the game of baseball. You can yell at me in front of the players, because if you yell at me, the Concepcions and the Geronimos, all those guys are going to listen to him. And I remember I got thrown out third in the inning, which is a no-no. And we have a meeting because we lost 4 or 5 in a row. And Sparky said, Rose, why are you getting thrown out third? What kind of base running is that? And it helped the rest of the players.
In the All-Star game in 1970, you're known for the collision with Ray Fosse, 12th inning, Riverfront Stadium, your home ballpark.
Yeah.
Let's first look at the video to remind people.
But when you watch this video, watch I started to slide head first. You'll be able to see I started to slide, and this gentleman had the plate blocked, which if you were playing today, it'd be against the rules. Just watch the video. Watch when I started to slide head first. Right here, I started to slide. And I said, well, if I slide, I'm going to break both my collarbones. All right, watch me. Watch me when I get up. I ask him if he's okay. Watch me ask him if he's okay. You have to understand. I did, because this is the truth. I took him out to eat the night before the game. I took him out to eat the night before the game. And he was blocking the plate. And I didn't ruin his career because he played 9 more years. He didn't miss any games after that. I missed the next 3, okay? That cost me 2 or 3 more hits. I'd had 4,259 hits. and here's another thing. If I hadn't knocked him on his ass right there, you wouldn't know who in the hell he was.
So, and let's be fair, that was at a time, Pete, when the All-Star game, it was important to you guys. You're in your home ballpark. He's cut off the plate to you. As you said, there's been a rule change to where that's not even allowed anymore. I don't know what else you're supposed to do in that situation.
I don't either. See, in those days, we played for league pride. That's why we played the All-Star game. League pride. You know, that's what we played for, because we thought, and we were a better league, and I'll tell you why. For one reason and one reason only. Because we had more African-American players. We had more speed. Why? Because Philadelphia, Montreal, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, St. Louis, Houston, and San Francisco all had AstroTurfs. And you got to have speed in the outfield when you got AstroTurfs. That's why we had a better league.
That 1970 year, you roll off that. It cost you 3 games, but your ball club wins 102, and now you get to the World Series. You're finally there.
It was just fun to get there. It was fun to get to the World Series.
You were in 6 in your career, but this was the only World Series that your father saw you play in.
Yeah.
What was it like after that World Series, seeing your dad?
It was okay, because I didn't do poorly in the World Series, but, you know, he understood our pitching was lame. He understood that. I mean, the handwriting was on the wall, but he would have rather won it. But, Joe, it's sure you want to win. You want to win a World Series. But to make the Super Bowl, to make the World Series, to make the NBA Finals, you know, to make the Stanley Cup Finals. I mean, there's only 2 teams that do that. And somebody's got to lose. But the experience of just being in the World Series was good for us, because it was our first time.
You lose the World Series to the Baltimore Orioles, and shortly after, your father passes away at the age of 58.
Yeah.
This is your
December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day.
this is your one idol in life, and he's gone. And it was sudden.
Night before, he was playing basketball with me.
And there was some invincible feeling about your
Yeah, my
dad.
dad was 190 pounds, never smoked, never drank, was in great shape. And the guy that gave the sermon says, you die the day you're born. It's only a matter of when. And that's a true statement. We all die the day we're born, but it's just how long we're going to live. And I can talk about my dad all day and all night, and I won't tear up because I have nothing but good things to say about him. I have nothing but like you, nothing but good experiences with my dad. No bad experiences. You only think negative when you have bad experiences with your mom or your dad or your uncle or whoever it may be. And I have no bad experiences with my dad.
Your sister Carol said, though, after he passed away, that's when the family fell apart. Do you agree with her on that?
Yeah, I do, because a couple years later, my mom got married to one of their best friends when they were kids growing up, the guy named Bob Nath, and that prevented my mom from coming around us at Christmas time and Thanksgiving and stuff. So, yeah, the family kind of split then. They're absolutely right. She's right about that.
You got there in 1970. You come up short against Baltimore. You get back in 72, and the game is, in essence, in your hands. It's a one-run game. You're the go-ahead.
We had the home game at home.
You're the go-ahead run at the plate.
Track power. That's a lonely feeling when you make the last out of a World Series in your hometown. Believe me.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what was life like for you after making the last out?
Well, you know, Joe, it wasn't that bad. I'll tell you why. Because we never experienced winning. So I didn't know that feeling, okay?
Okay, you're 0 for 2 in the World Series.
Let's go from 72 to the disappointment of winning over 100 games in 73 and losing to the Mets, who were like 2 games over 500.
Right.
And that was real disappointing because we had the best team in the world in 1973, and we got beat 5 games by the Mets. That was more disappointing to me almost than the 72 World Series.
Now you go to 75, and you're in this incredible World Series that people remember as much for Game 6 as they remember for Game 7. Game 6, you guys have an opportunity to end it. You're at Fenway Park. There's been a bunch of rain, and a guy named Carlton Fisk steps up to the plate.
There it goes, a long drive. If it stays fair, home run. We will have a 7th game in this 1975 World Series.
See, that was their championship right there. Watch that home plate celebration.
Hit one over the wall into the net.
See, they forgot they had another game to play. And I remember we went in the clubhouse, and Sparky said, "Big Red Machine, my ass." I said, "Sparky, we got him right where we want him."
It's interesting, though, Pete, because you called Game 6, at least at that point, the greatest game you'd been a part of.
And I lost it. And we lost it because it was 3-0, 3-3, 6-3, 6-6, 7-6 in the 12th inning. And it meant something. The game meant something.
But you were so confident for Game 7.
Yeah, we were.
Well, I mean, and for you, that's saying something because you had been to 2 World Series, had come up short. You'd been to a Game 7 and come up short. Why were you so confident leading into Game 7?
Well, I had so much respect and belief in Morgan, Perez, Bench, Griffey, Geronimo, Foster, Concepcion. I guarantee you Geronimo catches this ball.
Geronimo's under.
Oh, there's Geronimo. Okay,
has won the
thanks,
World
Caesar.
Championship, beating the Boston Red Sox 4-3. There's Pete Rose. The Reds win it in Fenway Park.
So it finally happened.
Yeah, it finally happens. And like I said a little while ago, you know, and I was very lucky because I got the most valuable player in that World Series. And that meant a lot more to me than it would Johnny or it would Joe. And I talked about this a little while ago, that because I'm from Cincinnati, and I got to hold the trophy up as Cincinnati Reds world champions, and I'm the MVP in that World Series. Because let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, once you hold that trophy as a world champion, okay, once you hold that trophy, it's a feeling that I can't describe. It's a feeling that you want every year. Unfortunately, you just can't do it.
I know you didn't have any issue staying motivated after you finally won it, but as the leader of that group, did you have to do anything different after you finally got there and won it leading into 76?
No, the only thing bad about the 76 World Series is coming off the greatest World Series in the history of baseball, it was boring because we swept the Yankees in 4 in a row, and it was cold. And Griffey and I didn't do anything, but we had 3 guys at over 500. I'd rather be a 7-game series and win as opposed to because it's a showcase for your sport. And you don't want to sweep. You want to keep people's attention for 7 days. You know, that's the way I look at it.
Right.
And it's not fun to watch a Super Bowl and it's 56-0. You turn it off at halftime, unless you got the over and it's 58.
You get to 3,000 hits in your final year in Cincinnati.
Yeah. The Reds proved to me that they no longer wanted my services. Not the fans, not the people who work at the ballpark, not the people parking the cars, but the owners. And unfortunately, I had an avenue to go to, and that was free agency.
It is literally one of the great courtships and recruiting efforts ever, certainly in baseball.
Ted Turner offered me $1 million a year, and then he read about me being with the rest of these guys. He come back and says, I'll give you $1 million a year, then I'll give you $100,000 every year after you retire until you die. Well, knowing Ted like I did, after I retired a year, he'd have had me put away, so I ain't worried about that. Okay. And then Mr. Bush offered me the Budweiser distributorship, and then Mr. Galbraith from Pittsburgh offered me racehorses. He owned racehorses. Believe me, ladies and gentlemen, if he'd offered me a Derby winner with balls that big, I'd have been a Pittsburgh Pirate.
But you're not.
I took the shortest offer, which was Philadelphia.
Because you handicapped their chances. That was a good team.
Yes.
And you were the missing link.
Because I knew the Phillies' problems in the 70s, what was it? It was the Reds. They couldn't beat us. Now, if I take my tack and go to Philadelphia, you know, Schmidt's the best third baseman in the history of baseball. Carlton's one of the best left-handers in the history of baseball. Lazinski, Maddox, Boone, Trio, McBride, Boone. We had a good team.
Talk to us about the 1980 World Series.
Well, the headline in the 1980 World Series, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, was George Brett had hemorrhoids.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
He was
that
a third baseman,
headlines.
Third baseman for the Royals, and that was the big story.
One of the best players in baseball.
Here's video of Game 6 in 1980.
Bases are loaded right now. Boone.
They'll have a play. Boone dropped it and Rose caught it. Rose was right there. It popped out of his glove and Rose made the play.
And the hard thing about that catch, didn't show on that thing right there, they had horses and dogs. You know, I'm going over there like this. There's horse shit over there. There's dog shit over there. I'm going like this so I don't slip on the stuff over there. Because they had the horses out to protect the cameras on the field during the game. That's the truth. And Booney just hit it, and I just caught it. Just, you know, we practiced that. It took 2 weeks to practice that.
Yeah. Here's how it ended. How did that one winning with Philadelphia compare, if at all, to winning with Cincinnati?
Yeah, it was better, Joe. I mean, you know, I hate to say that, but we had 25,000 at our parade. They had 1 million in the parade of Philly on Broad Street. They waited 86 years. That was a big celebration. That was a real rewarding year. It really was. And then we come right back and we lost in '83 to Baltimore. I hate Baltimore. I lost 2 World Series to Baltimore in 2 different decades, 1970 and 1983.
So you lose in '83 as a Philly.
Yeah.
And then it comes to an end in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And you end up in Montreal.
Yeah.
The Montreal Expos.
Give me a shot.
They gave you a shot. You knew you weren't finished.
I thought I was, Joe, but I really worked out and got in the best shape I could.
4,000 hits.
Opening day.
Opening day. What What did that mean to you?
It meant a lot because, but I knew I was going to do it. It was opening day. And nobody came out on the field except the batting coach, Billy DeMars. And I gave him the ball. He was my batting coach. I gave him the ball. Listen to this. 3 years ago, he sold it for $65,000. He didn't throw me no barrel. I gave him the ball and he sold it for $65,000. Is that unbelievable?
That is.
It is.
You go back to Cincinnati. You've been back there. You're the player manager. You'd never managed before, but you wanted to take that on and be, and if that doesn't make sense, player manager, you're on the roster, you can play, but you're also the manager. That's a lot on your plate. And you're going for the all-time hit record in 1985. How did you know you could handle all of that, be a manager, and still do your job?
I think what helped me going back is, I think you'll agree with this, that I always played like a manager. I was very fundamentally sound, and I knew how to practice. And I played myself into a position to come back in 85. If I'd hit 165, I couldn't have took a roster spot. But because I hit 365, I played every day and hit 365. It's like you bring a kid up in September and he hits 7 or 8 home runs. You got to give him a chance the next year to make the team. And then when I went into the 85 season, I don't know how many hits I needed, but it wasn't amount that I couldn't achieve, and I didn't have to play every day. Did not have to play every day. And going into September, I needed 1 hit. See, now you're thinking about your dad.
Just breathe it in. Pete's dad has to be looking down with a...
See what happened there? I can tell you. What happened there, I think, is when I broke the record and you're happy and all the players come out, and then all of a sudden the people kept clapping and clapping. In 6 or 7 minutes, it was okay. You know, I'm still enjoying it. I feel like I had iced tea with everybody that's at the ballpark anyway. And then all of a sudden you start thinking about everybody that isn't there, that should be there, that are gone. And in my case, my Little League coaches, my high school coaches, my American League coaches, some of my big league managers, some of my big league coaches. You know, everybody had helped me to get there. My father, my uncle, you know, they're not there, and that's what brings tears to your eyes.
But there's no way, Pete, there's no way that the first name, the first person you were thinking of wasn't your father. I mean, this was the man who instilled Charlie Hustle in Charlie Hustle.
Yeah.
He's the one that made you who you were.
Oh, yeah, he did.
And shaped you and formed you, and you looked up to the heavens, and all those coaches, and all that's great. But what do you think your father would have said to you on that night?
Well, first of all, he was up there. He was probably up there saying, "Take that, Cobb."
Right.
He'd have been happy. He'd have been happy, but you know, here's the way I thought when I played the game. If there'd have been 2 outs when I hit that ball, I was the leadoff hitter. But if there'd have been 2 outs when I hit that ball, realistically, I'd have went to second. So even in that game, I'm thinking about winning the game, and I got a triple the next time up, and I scored 2 runs in that game, and we won the game 2-0. So it was like a Hollywood script. The whole night was. But I always try to keep the game ahead of what I did individually. And if my dad would have been the happiest guy in the world. He probably was.
You also hugged your son,
Yeah,
Pete.
Petey.
Petey came out, and he said that was the first time he saw you cry. You were overcome. And I even see you now when you watch that video, when Petey comes out and gives you a hug. That's a special moment.
Well, it is. I mean, I remember when I told him, I said, "Don't worry about it, son, you'll beat my record." That's what it's all about. I mean, just like I said, Joe, if it had been a 7-minute standing ovation, they wouldn't have seen me cry. Now, you got to understand, you people didn't get to see me play, but they did. And they're used to seeing me yell at pitchers and knocking catchers down and knocking shortstops down and playing the way I did, not crying on the baseball field. You know, you ever heard that old cliche, "There ain't no crying in baseball"? We made that saying in Cincinnati. And all of a sudden, they're heroes out there crying. They never saw that side of me. because I never showed them it. But everybody's got feelings. It just takes sometimes a hard situation to get the feelings to come to the forefront. And it took a 9-minute standing ovation to get me.
Your quote, I'm just like everybody else. I have 2 arms, 2 legs, and 4,000 hits. When you see that on a wall or you see that in print, what does that make you think of?
Joe, I was so fortunate and so lucky to be able to play 3,500 games, to be able to bat 15,000 times, you know, to be around so many good players, so many good teams. If you stay healthy and you can hit a baseball, the records will all fall into order. They just will. You just keep putting out, keep putting out, keep driving, and good things will happen to you. And in business, the same thing. Just keep driving, keep driving.
Pete, the playing career comes to an end. You continue to manage, and in 1988, you're called into the commissioner's office to talk.
I just decided in '87 to start betting on my team to win every night. I had so much faith in and I was wrong. I was wrong. But most people who do something wrong don't ever think you're going to get caught. Don't ever think you're going to get caught. And I didn't think I'd get caught because I didn't keep records. You know, I didn't keep records. And I just knew I was going to win a hell of a lot more games than I was going to lose.
Well, a former federal prosecutor, John Dowd's brought in, and he puts together a 225-page report.
2,000-page.
2,000-page?
Yeah, 2,000-page, but he gave you
He whittled it down.
to 225, which was the prosecutor's brief. That's what it was. So everybody that followed my case read that. They didn't read the 2,000-page Dowd report.
But contained within the Dowd report was his gathered evidence, circumstantial, that said you bet on baseball. As you sit here now, you say you bet only on the Reds and only starting in 1987.
That's what I recollect. That's you know, if someone's got proof I bet in '86, I won't call him a liar. But as you can tell from me being here, I got pretty good recall. I mean, I remember things pretty good. And I'm going to tell you right now, Joe, I do not remember betting on baseball in 1986.
Well, when you get called into the commissioner's office in 1989, Bart Giamatti is now the commissioner.
Right.
And you sign...
Nice guy.
Nice man. You sign a deal. There's really no admittance at that point. It's just, I'm banned from baseball, I'm out, with the caveat that it'll be revisited. I'm anxious to know from you, you were in the room with Bart Giamatti. Did you get the sense that if you, by their words, reconfigured your life, that you had a shot
I did.
with Giamatti? That's why you signed the deal.
Absolutely. Giamatti was a gentleman. And why did I sign a lifetime ban? Because there's a clause in there that says I can apply for reinstatement after a year. And geez, I mean, you think I knew when I signed that with Bart Giamatti that he was going to die 3 days later?
Just over a week later.
The worst thing could happen to him and
Bart
to me.
Giamatti dies. And now that's why I'm asking you this, Pete, because I get the sense that with that death, now Fay Vincent takes over. Vincent and Giamatti were very close.
Vincent thinks I was worse than, what's the little guy with the cross on his...
Manson.
Charles Manson. I'm worse than Manson in the eyes of...
But once Giamatti dies, whatever understanding you had in the room with Giamatti is gone.
Yeah.
And the key for your get out of jail is buried with Bart Giamatti.
Yeah. And then he passed it on to Bud Selig. They told me to reconfigure my life. What I thought that meant was no more illegal gambling, which I don't do. Be very selective of people you hang around with, which I do. And I've done that. But I guess later on in life, Selig made it be known that what he meant was take responsibility for it. And I have. So, you know, you can only say you're sorry so many times and so many people are going to hear it. And, but I'm not worried about it because I'm not going to sit here on the Joe Buck show and complain to you people that I'm not in the Hall of Fame because I'm the one that screwed up. I'm the one that made the mistake. I'm the one who will live with the mistake. Okay? I don't go to bed tonight and pray that I go to Hall of Fame tomorrow. I go to bed tonight and pray I get up tomorrow morning. That's what I pray. Okay?
So let me ask you two things. What would it mean to you to get into the Hall of Fame?
Anybody in his or her sport, the ultimate goal should be to reach your Hall of Fame. And
it was something even your father mentioned.
yes. You asked me would I love to be in the Hall of Fame? Sure, I'd love to be in the Hall of Fame. All my teammates are there. All my friends are there. Most every player who's played against me or with me in some capacity is made the Hall of Fame. So I know a little bit about the Hall of Fame. I do know a little bit about it.
So the audience understands, right before you become eligible for voting,
They changed the rule.
They changed the rule and they said anybody who is on baseball's ineligible list, baseball's banned list, is not eligible for the Hall of Fame.
That was Faye Vincent.
So
Faye
they
Vincent in
basically
baseball
said,
changed it.
we're not going to even have to bring up Pete Rose's name because he's over in this category over here.
Right.
Okay?
You're absolutely
so
right.
now you have been to...
First reporter ever to say that. First reporter ever to report that, and it's absolutely the truth. Everybody forgets about they changed the rule, or I'd have been eligible to be voted for the Hall of Fame. Am I right, Joe?
You're right. So 4 different commissioners you've been to talk about this after the agreement in 1989. Here's what I see when I read the letter that was written by the current commissioner, Rob Manfred. I feel like there's a roadmap there, but you may have to do things that average citizens walking the street don't have to do.
You're meeting with the commissioner of baseball. The one thing you want to be is honest. And he asked me, do you still gamble? I live in Las Vegas, okay? I don't live there because I can gamble. I live there because I work there. I work at the mall, okay? Now, you have to understand.
Well, and maybe he signs autographs. He's not
4.5 hours a day.
Paul Blart walking around.
Yeah. So you have to understand that I'm 75 years old, okay? And I work my ass off, 20 days a month, 4.5 hours a day. I support a lot of people, okay? Now, who cares if I want to go make a legal bet on a football game or a basketball game or a baseball game and go home and watch it? Who am I hurting? I'm not hurting anybody. I'm living my life because there's a hell of a lot more of my life behind me than in front of me. And I was honest with him.
And I understand all that, Pete.
And I know I shouldn't do it because if I want to go into the Hall of Fame, I shouldn't do it.
That's the point, right? I mean,
but I'm over it, Joe. I'm over the Hall of Fame. I'm not worried about the Hall of Fame.
Okay, then what I'm about to say doesn't matter, okay? I'm giving you that. If you don't care about the Hall of Fame...
It's not that I don't care. I'm worrying about it.
Okay.
I don't want to consume my life worrying about the Hall of Fame because the Hall of Fame is not a bunch of altar boys. Okay, they act like everybody that's in the Hall of Fame is a saint. Well, I know a lot of guys in the Hall of Fame, and there's a lot of them aren't saints.
Yeah, but.
Okay?
But gambling on the game.
It was wrong. I admit that.
Having a hand in the winning and losing of the game and having money on the game crosses lines and breaks Rule 21.
It does, but there was never a game that I managed was ever in doubt in Las Vegas. And what did I do every night when I bet on my team? I did everything possible to win that game.
But when you didn't bet on your team, weren't you telling the gambling community?
I didn't tell anybody. Nobody knew.
Nobody knew.
Who knew? The only guy who knew was the guy who took the bet.
Okay, so let's go back. If you were to get into the Hall of Fame, here's what I think. There seems to be a roadmap, and that roadmap would be, even though it's legal for me to go to Las Vegas and gamble on a game, you stop gambling.
Okay, all I'm told is to reconfigure my life. And we even asked Commissioner Manfred, what do you mean, reconfigure my life? And he didn't give me an answer. Just tell me what you want.
Well, what if
do you never want me to bet again? Just tell me.
Okay, what if that's the answer?
And I'll do it.
You wouldn't bet.
No, I wouldn't do anything if he told me.
Okay,
Just tell me what you mean when you say reconfigure your life. No one would tell me what that means. I told you what I thought it meant based on what I was doing. Commissioner Manfred didn't know what I meant when I said, you want me to reconfigure my life? Tell me what you want me to do. Please, just tell me what you want me to do. I can't move out of Las Vegas because that's where I get paid. That's where I get paid. You know, I mean, you're one of the smartest guy in baseball. You're the commissioner of baseball. You know, I'm sitting there, I'm saying, what do you mean? Just tell me what you want me to do. What do you want me to do? I'm pretty coachable. Just tell me what you want me to do.
And you'd follow that.
You damn right I would. If I saw the light at the end of the tunnel, I would. Absolutely, I would. But I'm not going to if they don't tell me what to do, because time's running out and I'm having fun. You know, and Joe, I don't know about you. You bet on football?
No.
Okay. I sure in hell wouldn't if I got back in baseball some capacity. Now I'd never bet on baseball.
Would you bet, period? Would you bet on the Kentucky Derby?
Yes, I would. I would bet on the Kentucky Derby because I'm a race fan, and that's part of Pete Rose's life.
What if that was the stipulation? What if Manfred said you can't place a bet?
But would that make any sense at all for Rob Manfred to tell me I couldn't bet on the Kentucky Derby?
No, but it's their rules. It's their rules. You know that as well as I do.
No, their rules is don't bet on baseball. Their rules don't have nothing about betting on football or betting on basketball.
But you're a special case. So if he says don't,
I wouldn't.
Okay.
Oh, just tell me.
All right.
Just tell me.
All right. I just wanted to
just call me in and tell me.
Make that clear. Tell me what's next for you, separate from all that.
We have a fantasy sports app. Yeah, called fandaction.com, where you can pick picks against me. You don't have to gamble. You don't have to gamble, but you can if you want. My website is fandaction.com, and I pick 4 or 5 players every night, 4 or 5 teams on different nights. Certain nights I'll pick 8 players and 2 pitchers, and you can play against me and win prize money. It's Pete's Picks, okay? It's not breaking any rules or anything.
All right, here we go. We have a couple fun questions, and that's the way we say goodbye on this show. You ready?
Ready.
I've not seen these.
Fun questions.
Would you rather have a pause button or a rewind button on your life?
Pause. Because I'd pause right before I made that first bet on baseball.
Would you rather have your kids get good grades or be good in sports? There's no lie detector here.
No. If you say, would you rather your kids get good grades or make major sports, I'd say major sports. Because you can't be a dummy and make the big leagues, football, basketball, baseball, hockey, tennis, whatever it is, golf. You know, because that's another thing, Joe. I wasn't a good student, so I'm not a hypocrite. I can't yell at my kids about being a good student, because I wasn't. So.
All right. Last question. Would you rather live next to a noisy neighbor or a constantly barking dog?
Jesus. You can shoot the dog, can't you?
Oh, God. Give me another answer. We're not ending with that.
Well, if I make the big leagues, I don't have a neighbor close enough that I can hear him.
Okay, good.
My house is 20,000 square feet.
Ladies and gentlemen, the hit king, Pete Rose. Hey, give us that.